Hey guys, welcome to Grandma's Wealth Wisdom channel or my Facebook page, wherever you're listening to this. I was really reflecting again. It's Thanksgiving time. I'm about to shut down and make some stuff for tomorrow. It's going to be not that many people, of course, but we wanted to. It's a time of reflection, being thankful, and kind of just thinking about, again, this past year has been nuts, but we've had some really awesome successes. And today I am bringing on James Pollard. James Pollard is a great friend. He has a podcast as well, and been doing some amazing work through his podcast and seen some amazing results in his own business. He's been on our YouTube channel before, and you can find him at the Advisor Coach, but also on my YouTube channel. You can find him at the very bottom, and it is called, what was that video called? How to have a positive money mindset. How to have a positive money mindset. If you jump in, hit that like button. If you're coming on Facebook, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. What I'm thankful for is how much we've grown in this year, with helping clients and helping build the brand. We started YouTube really in March because of COVID. And so now we're at 463 subscribers. And my hope is to get us to 1,000 one day and really help more people. So with that, I'm going to invite James here on the channel here. So, hey, James,
Hey.
thanks for doing this with me. I know I just said, hey, I want to do a live right now. Do you want to do it with me? And you said, yes. So that was awesome. And today we were thinking about this idea of wealthy versus rich, and kind of comparing the two, and asking, does a rich person, are they wealthy, or is a wealthy person rich? Is there, so you thought about this a little bit, James. So first, before we go into the question, tell us a little bit about you, what you've been up to this year, what you're thankful for, because it is Thanksgiving. So what
Tomorrow
are you
is Thanksgiving, yes.
Yeah.
So this is a timely topic for me because a lot of stuff has been going on in my business recently. A lot has changed since I last talked with you. There have been new products, new developments, new services, new bonuses, a new hire for a very key position that is very important. And you would think that would free up my time to hire someone to do something that essentially that I have been doing or wanted to do, but it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me really think, well, do I have the time freedom that I really want? Is that the wealth that I really want? And that was one thing that's happened today. A lot of stuff is going wrong this morning. Woke up with throbbing ear pain, had to go out and fix that. Went to Walgreens to get the lava flavonoid. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And then like the rubber tube thing and the scraper and all the ear health stuff. So I'm thankful that it was just a drop in the bucket. Like it didn't really matter. I could just go out, I could get all the supplies. It was no pressure whatsoever. And I can't imagine being in a position where that's not possible, where like I wake up and I just don't have the money to do it and have to deal with the pain. Like it sucks. Other things, like I run a pretty substantial email marketing system through my business. All the links, it's crazy to even talk about this, but it happened. All the links stopped working. And it's not just through me, it's through the entire business that does the email marketing. And they run tens of thousands of e-commerce stores, and the links just stopped working. So their chat was slammed. I was very polite when I reached out to them. I know you're probably getting a bunch of requests. I love what you're doing. Just trying to like be a nice person rather than, why are my links not working?
Yeah.
And they got back to me and they were so stressed that they just ended the chat. They said like, subscribe here for updates and notifications. Like they are getting slammed because Black Friday is coming up and Cyber Monday is coming up. This is not good for them. Other things like for some reason, my landscaping company came out today and put fertilizer on the lawn, even though they just put fertilizer on 2 weeks ago, which means the lawn is probably going to be burned out now.
Yeah.
So that's pretty stressful. Like a whole bunch of stuff has gone wrong. And yet I'm still thankful for a lot of the things that are going right. You have to
Yeah.
focus on the things
What?
that are going right in
Yeah.
your life and in your business.
Well, and I think similarly, like we could look at this whole year as what people have said, it's a dumpster fire of a year, and say how horrible everything is. Everything is a challenge, or we can look and say, what are we grateful for and thankful for? I mean, for us, man, we just bought this house, and then we had a flood that happened, and my whole basement got destroyed. And I'm like, holy crap, are you kidding me? For real? But I've also learned the power of insurance, and having insurance on my home and why we have it to be able to be made new, be brought back. And there's a little bit of a frustration there, but man, some of the stuff that's happened this year is challenging, from a business perspective, from financial perspective, and all kinds of things. But yet at the same time makes me think how lucky we are. You're dealing with internet problems and all of that stuff, right? Imagine 50 years ago, 100 years ago, or, if COVID would have hit, 100 years, well, we did have the Spanish flu. Yeah. So it kind of did. It could have been worse. Right. And so being grateful is a powerful thing. And what I want us to really reflect on is, this year, we have choices in our head or in everyday life to either say, man, life sucks. This company did some things and they're evil forever, and, screw them. Or we know, hey, I'm a business owner too. Things happen. How do you keep in this mindset of being, when crap is hitting the fan? How do you keep that mindset of positivity?
I'm not sure that I do, in the sense where people think positively. I'm a big fan of different self-improvement books and the law of attraction type books. I'm really into that. A lot of people can criticize that, but I'm into like Napoleon Hill and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind, Think and Grow Rich, like just thinking positively. But I've never really been able to master it.
Yeah.
Where I see other people who are just constantly positive, constantly upbeat. That ship has sailed for me. I really don't think that that's my personality. My trick, though, is I understand the law of averages.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it more of like a realist, more of like a statistical certainty thing. So I tell myself, all of these things have gone wrong today. Statistically speaking, based on the law of averages and reversion to the mean, going back to the normal, good stuff's coming. And that's not like a woo-woo, rah-rah thing. That's just math. Reversion to the mean, there is a normal in life. It's just a baseline. And when I go under that baseline and things start going wrong, I'm like, there's only one way, and that's up. I've got to go back to the mean sometime. And it also helps when things go really, really, really well, not to think that they will last forever. January of this year was my best business month ever. And it was crazy how well things were kicking in January 2020. But I didn't start making big changes and big hires and spending a bunch of money and doing all this stuff. I just knew that the baseline was going to be there. And that may be pessimistic to some people, but it's just math. It's reversion to the mean. I just figured, well, things are really, really good now, but I've got to keep it cool because reversion to the mean is going to happen. And I'm not surprised when it happens. So I kind of expect it. That's my trick. That's like my little strategy for it. I don't know if that helps.
But being a realist, I guess, knowing that, things aren't always going to be highs and they're not always going to be lows either. And I think that's a really, really good place to be in. So, Yeah, for us, we've thought about that too, like moving and all of this, and even next year, we starting Friday. Actually, we start planning for next year. Friday and Saturday, we take 2 days that we don't do any meetings. We think through and we look actually. Everything's on the table, and we say, what are we going to cut? What are we going to wasn't working this year? What were some of the positive things? Every year we do this. We write stories of this happened, this happened, this happened, and what we're grateful for, basically. And what are things that didn't work, and what are things we need to spend more time on, and what are things we want to spend less time on. I think that's something that we're coming into. So I like that we have this time after Thanksgiving. Do you do anything like that?
Yes. So every year, let me get it. Every year, I go through this book. This book is called Goals, obviously, by Brian Tracy.
Oh, there you go.
You can see my ring light. That's not very professional of me. There we go. Now you can't see it. It's broken down into different categories, such as your values, your potential, becoming an expert in your field, measuring your progress, making a plan of action, whatever. The value of this book is there are questions at the end of every chapter, like determining your true goals. And some of the questions are like, what is one goal that if you attained it would have the greatest positive impact on your life? And it's a good brainstorming exercise. And it says like, what is the largest single obstacle or difficulty that stands between you and your goal? So it's good to have questions at the end of every chapter where I can sit down and answer them and say, you know what, the biggest obstacle is this. And I identified it. And now I can create a plan to overcome that obstacle. So literally every single year, no joke, I go through this book, question by question by question, and I answer them all. And there's like 100+ questions. So it takes me a week or so, but
that's awesome.
It's really, really helpful.
The One Thing by Gary Keller.
I've read that as well. Yeah.
What's the one thing that you can do that if you've done it, it may make all things obsolete or not needed or something like that?
So without getting too in-depth or cheesy, I have a list of thinking questions here as well.
Oh, there you go.
I go through and I answer these questions, such as, how can I be certain that our team is performing to our standards? And I answer the question, how can I be certain? I answer the question, if everything counts and nothing is neutral, where are we missing the mark on delivering our promise and meeting customers' expectations? So every so often I will answer these types of questions and I will write down my answers and I'll see, well, how am I missing the mark with customers? How am I missing the mark? How can I make sure that my team is moving? So I answer the same questions over and over and over and over to make sure that I'm making progress, essentially.
Well, I think that's a good, another thing we're talking about. The topic is the difference between wealth and, or is there a difference between being rich and being wealthy and all of that? And I think sometimes, I think about wealthy people or rich people, the people we go after and we say, I want to be just like them. Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, all these people, they usually have set routines and they do the same things over and over again. Pretty consistent, right? And they have certain things that they do on a quarterly, annually, yearly basis that keep them dialed in. And then the other people are like, I'm not getting ahead. I'm not, they aren't what do you call it? Reorienting themselves to, hey, what worked, what didn't work. Hey, let's get back up and not have the same thing happen again. I think those questions really help with that, right?
Yeah. And I think I talked about this the last time I was on Grandma's Wealth Wisdom, is that if people knew, I mean, some people know, like Inner Circle members, I run a monthly membership and members to that monthly membership know, but if the regular person knew like how boring my life was, they would be shocked, because it's just doing a bunch of stuff that's really, really boring and really, really tedious again and again and again. There is no like sexy stuff that happens. Maybe once every quarter, I do like something really cool and business wise. But other than that, it's just normal. A lot of writing, a lot of networking, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of reading, just boring stuff. And people are constantly looking for the next new thing and the hottest thing and the next trend. And even in the investment world, like the wealthy people get it. When you say that they do the same things, it's totally true. And they tend to do the boring stuff. That's also extremely true.
Yeah.
The people who believe in some secret or believe in some trick, they are the ones who are going to go after the hot investment fads. They're going to go after the hot business buzzwords. And I see it all the time. A specific example is with like business bestsellers, the books that are like hot today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
You see certain buzzwords and certain pieces of jargon enter the like society's vernacular, and it's hot for a couple years. Like project management was hot like 2 or 3 years ago, and everybody was hopping on, and they were doing Slack and having Slack channels and Asana. But people have been doing project management for a long time in different forms, in different pieces of software. It's just that when it enters the public consciousness, people buzz around it, and you see it with everything from investment bubbles to certain pieces with like people's lifestyle. They just get swept up in this stuff. But here you have people like me, and not to like toot my own horn or brag or anything, but just reading the same book every year instead of chasing the next new thing.
And it's goals. So Rihanna here, she has a channel that we were on her channel recently, just doing an interview with her, Frugal Lifestyle channel. So she does some really amazing videos too. So she wrote great strategy. I should definitely start doing a yearly planning session. I think, if you have it with your team, with yourself, anything that you can do to kind of cut out of the email marketing, email technology, reading a same book, those kind of things, to just say, hey, I'm out, and you really are left with your own thoughts and your own goals. And you're not comparing yourself with other people. Like that's another thing. What I've learned is compare yourself to yourself yesterday. That's the only comparison you really should be making. You might look and say, hey, I can learn something from this person or that. But you're not them. You haven't had their experiences, all of that stuff. So anyway, I strongly recommend figuring out what that yearly planning is, and then you figure out what those big rocks are you want to accomplish through that year. So thanks, Rihanna, for your comment there. And then Joyce also wrote something. His blessings are rich and no sorrow is in it. I met her through a church relationship a long time ago. Probably about 17 or 15 years. So that leads me into, how do you feel like wealth, or this pursuit of wealth, and is there a difference between the rich and the wealthy?
So I know a lot of rich people on paper, but if you really sit down and you think about it, they may or may not be wealthy if you assume that wealth is time freedom. And a good thought experiment that people could do is just substitute different dollar amounts with different amounts of time that you can have for yourself. Like, would you rather make $100,000 per year and have no time commitments to a boss? I mean, I know people use that term. It's just like, oh, you don't have a boss or whatever. Well, sometimes you have to have a boss. But yeah, would you rather have $100,000 per year and no time commitments, and you can do whatever you want with that $100,000? Or would you rather make $500,000 and have time commitments to someone else and have to be at a job or a physical location and all that? But, and I don't mean that one is better than the other. There may be a dollar amount for you where you are okay giving up your time commitment for a little bit. If you make a massive amount of money for a couple years, that over the long term, it may be better for you to give your time commitment away or commit your time now and just have no life for 3 years rather than having, partially no life, working 8 hours a day and giving up your time for years and years and years and years and years. That
Yeah.
may be better. And the reverse is also true. You don't want to end up in a spot where you don't have any money, but all the time in the world. Is that wealthy? I don't think so. You
Yeah.
can have all the time, but if you can't really do anything, you're just stuck in your house and you have no access, you have no friends, you have no network, I don't think that's wealthy either. So I think you have to know what is good for you and what fits your unique situation. There are some people in online communities and the financial independence retire early who believe that wealthy is just having unlimited time freedom to do whatever you want. But
Yeah.
you can't really if you don't have the money to back it up. Then there are other people who are they're pursuing money so much that they give up everything in order to have it. Well, that's not freedom either. Because
Yeah.
if you have tens of millions of dollars, but you can never use it, well, you're in the same spot essentially. So you have to find that balance there.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a difference in wealth of money. And I know, like, again, you might go to Africa or somewhere, I don't know, where people are supposedly poor, but they have a wealth of relationship,
Yeah.
right? And wealth is more than just money, in my opinion. Wealth is there's so many aspects. That person has a wealth of knowledge, right?
Mhm.
And this person is that, man, I want their spiritual relationship, that they have some kind of like connection to God that I've never, or I mean, there's so many things, and I kind of look at it almost as a game in some regards. There, how there's, you play a game and you're leveling up, right? And you level up one area and then you're weak in another area. And we can measure money and say, well, I made it. But is that really the key indicator of success? Or what is success? Those questions I think we need to be asking. And I feel like too many people don't sit alone in their thoughts enough to ask those questions.
Yeah. It's different for everyone. Now,
Mm-hmm.
using myself as an example, wealth for me is a combination of financial freedom, like a lot of money essentially,
Yeah.
and a lot of time freedom. And that may not be right for everyone. The thing is, I've come to grips with the fact that in order to reach that, it's going to take a lot of what other people would call sacrifice. It doesn't feel like sacrifice to me, but not doing certain things, not going out, just like
Mm-hmm.
working nose to the grindstone. I've made that enjoyable for several years, but it's not for everyone. And other people would be happy with a much simpler life with a lot less and more time freedom. I think things change if like you have family members living with you
Yeah.
and you have
Yeah.
different commitments and different people that you have to be involved with in your life. That changes things as well. So I completely acknowledge that for people out there as well.
Well, and I do think here's one of the challenges that I faced when we ran our coffee shop. One is people thought we were wealthy
Mhm.
when we had the coffee shop, and if you're a business owner, people think you're rich and all of this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I had somebody tell me, "Oh, so you're selling the business, so you're going to sleep in all the time now?" I'm like,
Excuse you.
I'm not rich. Like
Yeah.
it's not, and but the reason I sold was because I knew life situations were going to change. I could work like crazy hours and not get paid as much, and be okay with it. I could run myself into the ground. That's okay because I'm doing that to myself. When you have a child or you're taking care of an elderly person, that's a very different thing.
Yep.
And I think that, again, we have to ask ourselves, what are my goals? What does wealth mean to me? What does freedom mean to me? And you build the life you want around that. Like, I tell you, I make more than I've ever made in our life, which is great. I don't need a lot either. So
Right. So it's like that's one of the mind tricks that people have to cope with as you begin making more money. It's like, especially if you keep your lifestyle costs low. If you don't spend a bunch of money, like, well, I've got a bunch. I could go out and spend it if I want to, and there's always that temptation. But it doesn't change your life as much. Like if you know that your expenses are going to be $50,000 per year, every single year, and you're content. I think that's a good word to use. You're content. If you make an extra $100,000 or $200,000 through your business or something, your life doesn't change. It's like you have so much more money, but nothing changes. And
yeah,
that's always been interesting to me. And another thing is there are several people who are in business who through their businesses have extremely high net worths, but they don't have much cash. They're cash poor. This happens a lot with real estate investors, and they may have good cash flow. They may not, who knows? But net worth wise, they have 10 different properties that are all, let's say an average of $300,000. Well, that's $3 million net worth, assuming they're paid off. That's not so shabby, but they can't eat that. There's no cash there. They should have something that's liquid. So there are people that I know, a couple of tech entrepreneurs who their net worth is amazingly high, but it's in their business. And the only way they can get that cash is to sell their business. And when they sell their business, it stops. Like the musical chairs stop. And like on paper, they have a bunch of money, but they can't eat it. They can't spend it. They can't do much with it. So I am the type of person who's kind of urging them, hey, you might want to make some get some cash and save it somewhere that's secure, that's guaranteed, and make it work for you.
I had a client that I was talking with, and he has 4 properties, and I said, man, you have $1 million at least, over $1 million. Your net worth is this. You're eating beans and rice right now and I'm like, you just need to sell a property, do something. And he didn't want to get rid of it because he's like, well, I've built this and I have this. And I'm like, you don't have anything until you've sold it. I mean, you have it, yes, but it's not going to. And I think that was a hard thing. And I think it's a big change of behavior because we're told other things or even lies out there. I don't know. You saw my video that I released yesterday. It was in regards to Dave Ramsey.
I was just about to ask you that. I was like, when are you going to bring up the Dave Ramsey video?
Yeah. So you do what I do. You're a client, and you also are very well versed in the financial world. If people don't know, like you talk this stuff all the time with people. Like, I mean, you actually.
I'm pretty involved. You can say that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
kind of, sort of. It's kind of what I do.
It's in your name. Like it's financial advisor coach, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you understand and you see these worlds. As you watched those 2 videos or what is your thinking and what would you, if you were sitting down with Mr. Ramsey, what would you ask him?
So I understand where Dave is coming from. He has a business to run. He runs it very well. He has a team that works very well to portray a certain image, to portray a certain narrative to his audience. And I commend him for that. I think it's done very well. That he obviously has his business well run. It's great. The trouble is when you make blanket statements that may or may not apply to everyone. And I almost wish that he had a disclaimer at the beginning of every show. Hey, this may not apply to you, because financial advisors have to do that. They have to say, caution, meet with a legal professional or an accounting professional. Past results are not an indicator of future results, blah, 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 blah. They have to have disclaimers out the wazoo.
Yep.
But Dave doesn't. And that's no no beef with Dave on him not having disclaimers or whatever, but it is an important part. So I would ask him, why is he so quick to make a blanket statement? I could be wrong, but I think in the original video that he had said infinite banking is a scam,
Yep.
that he made those judgments very quickly. Didn't ask as many questions about the individual's financial situation. He may have variables that would make this a right choice for him. I would ask, why are you so quick to make blanket statements? And I don't mean that as like a diss in a financial realm. I mean, as a business person
Yep.
running a radio show, I think it would make for amazing content to dig into a person's financial situation. You could just change the person's name. You could make him or her anonymous. Doesn't matter. You could ask more questions. You could dig deep. And that's a win-win, because not only would it be great content for Dave, it would help the listeners a lot more, because they could say, wait a minute, well, this particular caller has this amount of money. I don't have that amount of money. He makes this much per year. I don't. He has other pieces of his life that I don't have. They can make a more informed decision. So that's a win-win. And it seems super obvious to me. So that's what I would want to ask, is why is he so quick to make these blanket statements?
Well, in your opinion, as you've experienced this whole infinite banking, quote unquote, scam, what do you see? I mean, you've now experienced it for a little bit, and where are you seeing from the other side? I know what I see, but I'm licensed, so of course I'm biased, right? Maybe, but I also think we're all biased, in my opinion. But what are you seeing in your own experience?
I think it is an integral part of my overall portfolio. It's replaced cash, essentially. I mean, that's in finance speak, that's essentially what has happened. In just regular one person to another person, a lot of the stuff that people say about it is just flat out wrong. Like not having access to your cash value for 7 years, I have no clue where that came from. I mean, I understand that there are some insurance agents who are not so nice, who will structure it to where the cash value doesn't build up. I understand that, but I don't know where that blanket statement that you don't have cash value for 7 years, I don't know where that came from, because like I must be doing it wrong then, because I have cash value available immediately. And I mean, more than 80% essentially. And that's something that I never understood. It's wrong. Like, it's not kind of sort of incorrect. It's not fudged a little bit. It's just black and white. Either it is or it isn't. You know, you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. You're not kind of pregnant. It's just wrong. And a lot of the things that are said in various internet communities and blogs and articles and YouTube videos, just wrong.
Well, I do think we always have to ask, and he does ask this. He says, well, where are they getting their money from? Of course, an insurance person is going to say this because they sell insurance. Of course, we had a beef with it because that's what we do. I had a beef with it because, hey, you're calling me a scam artist and that I'm selling crap, right? For me, I'm like, I'm a little offended by that, because I know my clients have been impacted in a really positive way. And I got into this to change people's lives, not to do the other. And personally, I've been impacted in a positive way because of it. So we were a little offended.
Well, I think that's the lens through which people view insurance agents. So you kind of have to operate assuming that people view you in that way. It's unfortunate.
But then on the flip side, there's the wolf on Wall Street, right? Which we put in, but there's the wolf of the insurance company in the wolf, I don't know. I don't see as many wolves. And I think there's times that you would there's times to put in the market. And I think you have stuff in the market, right? I'm not saying you don't do that. I'm saying that there's a bigger picture that we want to look at. And this plays a piece of your portfolio. And you should have experts in that are good at those various pieces. I will tell you, if you have going into assets under management type stuff, don't come to me. Go ask. I'll point you to the right people, or your tax guy. You have a tax guy. I know enough about taxes, but I would tell you, you need to talk to your tax guy, which I have.
Well, another thing that I think is very interesting is that people will say, oh, well, insurance agents get all these massive commissions and they're selling it to you for the commissions. And that, yes, it's true. Everybody gets a financial incentive. That's how the world works. And people who are in my world understand that. I reference that all the time. I mean, we live in a world of monetary exchange. It's pretty obvious, but like, just do the math. It's not a biased thing. It's not someone's right or wrong. It's just the numbers. That's it. If you look at the insurance commission versus 1% taken every single year, you just look, is it bigger for the insurance agent? Maybe. I don't know. Is it bigger for the assets under management? Maybe. But look for yourself. Don't just assume. So it's like Dave or someone else may say they're doing it for the commission. Well, of course they're doing it for the commission, at least partly. They have to get paid somewhere, but you're also paying money in other investment vehicles. And coming from the financial world, a lot of times people don't understand this is like the value here. People don't understand the difference between the total of what they're being charged, like in totality, versus just their advisor's fee, because the advisor may charge 1%, but then there are expense ratios associated with the funds that you're in. So you may be in a fund that charges an expense ratio of 0.25%, and your advisor charges 1%. And some unscrupulous ones may just say, I'm charging 1%, I'm charging 1%, I'm charging 1%. But what you don't realize is that you're actually getting 1.25% taken from you every single year, because there is an expense ratio associated with the fund as well. And that adds up too. Now, there are people who invest directly with like Vanguard or Schwab, and they have virtually no expense ratio. But I mean, let's just do the math. Let's say that I have $1 million and I invest it just with Vanguard in a fund. I don't know any specific fund, but let's say that it's 1/10%. That's still $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I keep that for 20 years, assuming let's say I hit $1 million at 65 years old in a retirement fund, and keep that for 20 years, and it never changes, like it's going to continue to grow, and they're going to charge more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. But that's $20,000. So you just have to ask yourself straight up, is the insurance agent getting $20,000 worth of commission or not? And then make your own decision.
Yep. Well, and I think that's the question that most people, they don't like to do math, but yet we need to think about, again, where I go back to for me is, what's the difference between wealthy and rich? And for me, I want to help people become wealthy, whatever that means for them, or at least never run out of money too. Because we could have $1 million somewhere, but if you can't access it and you have 11 years that you can without penalty, that might be a challenge, but that might still be part of your plan, right? It's not like you don't do it, but maybe we want to look holistically of what's your goals. Like, I think you have a goal of a Tesla, right?
Well, not a goal anymore. I wouldn't call it a goal.
It's coming. Yeah.
It's in the mail, I guess. I don't know how to say it. It's coming.
It's almost realized, but it's again thinking about, okay, what are things that are going to help me, and what help, not necessarily help me. It's because I want it. Helps me feel wealthy. And some people, maybe it's not that, or it's not the right time. Right. And I think a lot of people, they want to be wealthy, and the credit card companies will give them the illusion of that. Even the market.
I love using the illusion though. I must admit, so I have like the Amex Platinum and all the fancy credit cards, but I use it intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Like the concierge service, I had to call the concierge service last night. One of my family members wants I'm not into video games, so I might butcher this, but the Xbox X, the new
Yeah.
Xbox that's coming out. So the American Express concierge helped me locate one, essentially. So that is pretty cool, I must admit. But when I go out sometimes and they see the card and there's an illusion there.
Yep.
But I mean, it's neither good nor bad. It's just people do get swayed by this illusion of stuff.
Well, if you think about American Express, and I don't know if you remember in the 80s, most 80s and 90s, most companies did not have American Express. You could only pay by Visa or MasterCard. Do you remember that? And then what happened in the 2000s, because the fees for American Express on a business owner side was way too high, right? So then American Express created Shop Small Saturday or whatever. That was created by American Express, and it was to get them into the small business communities because they didn't have their credit card there, and so it was created to a marketing scheme to get the business of the small business owner.
Well, it's coming up. That's this Saturday.
Yeah. I also we have Buy Nothing Day, which is Black Friday. We don't buy anything. We call it Buy Nothing Day, which everyone else is buying everything day. Yeah.
I don't know which one is the right one, but every year on Black Friday, I contact all of my business's vendors and I ask them which Black Friday deals they offer, and I just lock it in. And I look at my restaurant bill, well, not bill, but my credit card statement of restaurants over the past year. And I say, well, I've eaten it, let's say Texas Roadhouse twice a month, and it's a $50 bill every time. So that's $100 a month. It's $1,200 for the year.
Yeah.
Let's say that they offer something like buy $100 worth of gift cards, get $25 free. Well, that's a 25% return on my money right there. I will take $1,200 and just straight up buy the gift cards, get 25% of my money right there. No risk. Cause I know I'm going to spend it anyway. I'm just cutting into my lifestyle expenses.
Well, and I think that's what I love about the infinite banking concept and what I do.
Bingo.
You will finance everything you buy, whether it's in a savings account that you saved up and you use it, or you use a properly designed whole life insurance policy, right? That has that cash value component. Every person does that. And Amanda did a video. If you haven't, go to our YouTube channel and check it out. What's more important than life insurance? It's that idea of finance. And so many people are using credit cards like fast, like crazy. But again, thinking about what's the cost of money. And am I getting by you putting into the policy, you're getting the dividend growth and access at the same time. And then you could use it. For me, this is why I have no beef with the market side. And I could pull out money from my policy, put it into a market thing or any of that, my business mainly, and have a bigger ROI.
Yeah. I mean, there are tons of examples. Like in the neighborhood in which I live, the community, we have an HOA, and they are giving, for this year, for some reason, they're giving a 25% credit if you pay your HOA in full. Sign me up. 25% immediately, like with money that I'm actually going to spend. It's not like I'm going out and buying a flat screen TV just because it's on sale. I'm going to have to pay the HOA anyway. So for them to give me a 25% discount for paying cash, that's incredible. Of course I'm going to take it.
Yeah. Well, and if you have the cash, you need to have it available. So most people have it in their 401k or in something that they can access. For us, we had the windows that we have to buy for our place. And we did the math and we asked them, if I pay cash, what's my discount? and I could have it in a bank account, savings account, but then I lose that money once I've spent it, right? It's not growing in interest anymore. So there's just, again, we want to think like a bank in this. And I think that's what you're really good at, your systems thinking. And business owners get it because they have to be systems oriented. The wealthy get it. A lot of wealthy people, this is what wealthy typically, that's what they do a lot of. So my thing of thinking of, do we want to be rich or do we want to be wealthy? Well,
But I mean, even like people always listen to live streams or whatever for quote unquote value, and that's up for debate.
I hope this is valuable to people.
I know, but like what I'm telling people right now, seriously, think about this. You can prepay your expenses. You've got Black Friday coming up. So just me and my business alone, I've got email marketing management. I've got a lead pages software. I've got virtual assistants. I've got different contractors. I've got web design. I've got podcast. Let's say, I mean, you're risking your money elsewhere. I'm not hating on 401ks and investments in the stock market or whatever, because I have a lot of money in the stock market as well. But just think about this. I could go to these vendors and negotiate a discount that is greater than the historical stock market yearly return. That is real money that I'm actually spending. Like one of the virtual assistants, I just use her really, really part-time. It's like $10,000 a year. If I go through her agency and get a 10% discount, I was going to spend that anyway. And then I have the money in the policy growing at the same exact time, and I could take the savings and put it right back in the policy anyway. It's like, it blows my mind that more people don't think like that, but I understand that not everybody does.
Well, and why do you think not everybody does think that way?
Conditioning and exposure. The mere exposure theory in psychology is just, you've been exposed to the same thing again and again. I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on or anything, but coming from the marketing world, just telling you like it is. So I run essentially a marketing consultancy for the financial services industry. JP Morgan's got billions of dollars to advertise. Schwab has got billions to advertise. Vanguard's got billions to advertise. You're just seeing it constantly. A company like Emeritus or Security Mutual Life or Forrester, they don't have the money to advertise like that. And they don't. They put it back in the company and back in the owners, which is you. That's really it. I mean, if you think about it, $1 billion with TV and online ads or whatever, you can reach every single person in the country with $1 billion. And that's not just a drop in the bucket to these companies. So they're reaching you again and again and again and again. And there are certain times where if you see a message enough, you're just not going to question it. You're just not. The Gecko, when I say Gecko, what insurance company do you think of? Obviously, Geico. Okay. You're in good hands immediately, Allstate. That you weren't born with that. So you were not born thinking that a Gecko is associated with an insurance company. You were taught to think that way. And the same is true with everything in life, investments as well. You're just conditioned to think, when people say, I want a good job because a good job has, and they say health insurance and benefits and 401k, like it fills it in. But you weren't born. You didn't come out of the womb knowing. That wasn't your instinct as a human being to seek out benefits and 401k and health insurance or whatever. It blows people's minds when they discover, like, you can buy health insurance yourself. Like, you don't need a job for that. But it's just conditioning.
Well, and I think, again, for me, and knowing the buy term and invest the rest kind of thing, and where it came from, it's a marketing. It was done by Primerica. I'm actually doing a YouTube or a video on Robert Kiyosaki too, and some marketing that he did. And I think, man, they're really good marketers, right? That's brilliant. Really what Susie Orman and all of those. Susie Orman was people, then things, then money or something like that. Was that right? Something like that. But
yeah, people first, then money, then things.
Yeah. And I haven't really followed her for a long time, but I was like, yes, we have these things in our heads because of, again, marketing. But my thing, and it goes back to our questions. And if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat. Would love to engage with you guys. But what is wealthy? Whenever I meet with every client, I am not just selling a product. When somebody wants to get on the phone and say, just tell me a policy that I need to buy. What do I need to do to get this? I won't have that conversation with them. I'm not going to just sell them a policy that isn't going to like be right for them. And oftentimes I have to ask, what are your dreams? What are your goals? What do you want to like? And most of the time people don't even, they're like, I've never thought about that. I never thought about why I go above the match in my 401k. I never thought about taxes, if they would go up or down. And I hear this all the time. Well, that's a really good question. I'm just thinking, well, we need to be internally asking ourselves more questions. And as we do that, we'll be able to be more clear of what does wealth look like to us.
Yeah, I think you're talking to the right person, because let me check now. I think if you just Google best financial planning questions to ask clients.
Are you going to come up?
Yeah, there I am. Best financial planning questions to ask clients. It's written for financial advisors, obviously. But yeah, a lot of the questions are like, have you ever worked with an advisor before? What are you doing now? Do you feel as if you're reaching your goals? Why do you think you need help? What changes are you expecting to occur in the future? But let's circle back to your Dave Ramsey video. I didn't hear Dave Ramsey ask any of those questions. I didn't hear him ask the gentleman, what has been your investment experience so far? Mm-hmm. What are your values? Or besides money, what's important to you? How do you picture your life 1, 3, 5 years from now? He was just like, whole life equal bad. Must get him away.
And if you noticed at the very end, he said, you should do a term policy, and here's a good company, which happens to be a company that he gets money for, that he promotes.
Leads for. Well, but see, that would be okay if he took people through this process and they were a good fit, and it truly legitimately, for some reason, I can't think of a reason why, but it did make sense for them. If that was the case, and he says, you need term insurance, that would be completely fine. And he say, I have just a company for you, and he gets paid. I don't have a problem with him getting paid for it. Of course he's going to get paid. But the problem is not asking these questions. Yeah. That is the real problem.
And I definitely don't have anything against term, because
well, you get paid from term, because the 95% of term policies, or 99%, don't ever pay out, and they go back to the whole life insurance company anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for me. I'm like, hey, this is good for me as an
owner
and mutual. Yeah, so it works for us, but also as a agent on that side. Hey, if I see that they need it and they can't do a whole life yet, or it's not in there, I will say, you need to do this. And the reason I think that is we protect our phones, we protect our houses, we protect our cars. You are your greatest asset. You should have, even if it's a cheap policy to build protection, you should have that.
I think it came from Nelson Nash, the story or metaphor of like Mr. Jones. If you had an income producing robot, that the robot would make, let's say, $1.2 million over the next 20 years, would you insure that robot? I think that came from Nelson Nash. I may be mistaken. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant way to frame it. And if you can't do a whole life insurance policy, or for some reason, or your circumstances aren't set up as well yet, that's fine. But you still need to think, if I had that robot, would I insure it? And the answer better be yes, because why would you not if you had that robot? I mean, you are the robot making the money.
Yeah. And then one thing I was thinking about is that, again, the robot and the need for financing. That's even bigger than even insurance and that use. Yeah, I lost my train of thought here. I had something really good. I knew I was going to lose it. So as you're thinking about dreams for 2021, if 2020 was this dumpster fire of a year, where would you say to our listeners what they should do, how they should set up 2021, even if we're going through quarantine for a little longer? What would you say? What would be your big advice?
The planning part it's crucial. And I've never been a fan of people who say like new year, new me, and they set New Year's resolutions. I mean, I think you should be planning year round. But with that said, a new year is a beautiful time to look at your fresh start. You got 12 months. You can plan out what you want for this month, the next month, the month after that, and you can really break it down. I'll be transparent with people. I set some pretty big goals at the beginning of 2020. It doesn't look like I'm going to reach them because of the pandemic and coronavirus or whatever. I'm not going to let that get me down. I'm close, to be fair. I'm not miles away from where I want to be. I'm fairly close, but it's probably not going to happen, unfortunately. I'm just going to try again. I'm just going to do the planning and set the big goals and break it down monthly. The nice thing about breaking your goals down monthly, instead of just like, I want to make X amount of dollars this year, you can say, I want to make $120,000 extra next year or whatever, and break it down into $10,000 per month. The nice thing about doing it that way is if you get to the end of a certain month and you're $2,000 off, you can step it up the next month and try to get an extra $2 to make sure that you're on track for your whole year, rather than getting to December 31st and saying, oh shoot, I missed it by a lot. So having it every month helps me quite a bit.
Well, and I know for us, we wanted to double our business, and we were on track to do that. But then, Corona happened and all that, and that's, whatever. But we still are in a really good spot, in our business, and we're in a powerful place, I feel like. But if you don't have a plan, you might, again, as you're going in that direction, you might go off a little bit, but you can still like alter, you can change. But if you're just sitting here waiting for it to come and you're not moving towards anything or asking the right questions, well, then you're never going to get to this wealthy or rich or whatever, because you're just saying, well, somebody's got to give me, I'm waiting for my $1,200 to come, and then that'll be okay. And for me, man, I was hoping that I would get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year on YouTube. Yeah, because I was like, man, it can happen, but there's a lot out of your control. A whole lot out of your control, and I'm not going to just do the feed the algorithm. But I'm close to half of that, which is awesome, and we have a pretty good solid channel, and I feel like that is something I feel proud of. Did I reach the goal I wanted? No, but I got next year, and the year after, and from there on, I'm going to share my channel so you guys can subscribe, though, of course, because I have a goal to grow it. So go over, if you have not already, and subscribe to this awesome channel. It's called Grandma's Wealth Wisdom. The Neelys present Grandma's Wealth Wisdom. There I am live right there. And you'll see there's a video that we did just yesterday, our response to why infinite banking is a scam that Dave Ramsey said. And again, I think some of his stuff is really good. I think that there's some things that, again, we should all be learning from. And then while you're there, I want you to type in your browser this link. It's fifemovement.com/joy. And what we're doing is we're doing a free class on December 5th. And this is supposed to be 2021 equals a 2020 rerun. We want to help you spark joy with your money and help think through those questions that you might be having. And so it's Saturday, December 5th. And we're really going to talk about like, how do you have joy with money in a world that is a little topsy-turvy, and what are you going to do about it for next year? So we're going to talk about joy strategizing, joy hacking, joy building, and really thinking about having joy with your money, because it's the holidays, right? So we're supposed to be all joyful, even if we're stuck at our homes. So check that out. Amanda's going to be the main host there, of course, because she's the smartest. No, we're both equally good. So I want to leave this. What would you want the audience? How can they get a hold of you? And how can they learn more from you, James?
Well, I mean, unless they're financial advisors, I'm not sure that they would get much from me and my business, but it's theadvisorcoach.com. And I think I would leave them with the same advice that I gave last time on the show, which is seriously structure your team, get a team together. Like they're joking, like accountant, insurance agent, financial advisor, get them together. So they will help you in ways that you can't help yourself because you don't have all the knowledge in the world. You need their help. Theadvisorcoach.com.
Oh yeah. Whoops. Let me edit that. Hide it. And let's see here.
But that's so important. I mean, I have people who help with certain things, like even like my podcast. There are days where I just don't want to do it. And if left to my own devices, I probably wouldn't. But because I have people helping me and essentially, for lack of a better description, forcing me to do it, it gets done somehow. And that's one of the beautiful things about, a bank on yourself type policy is there's a little bit of force in there. You're forcing yourself to set up a vehicle that can help you generate wealth. But if you're left to your own devices with investment accounts, you just got to be honest with yourself. Would you fund it? Like, I know people say, well, just set up auto investment every single month or whatever, but the temptation is always going to be there to say, I'll skip this month. But if you can get an element of force in your life, I've found that helps quite a bit.
And I feel like for me, it's the saving side of it. And your other side is maybe investing. So you want to think through both of those things. But
think about this with the Dave Ramsey thing that you mentioned for your audience out there. If you're listening to me or Brandon, I want you to think about this. Why is it that Dave Ramsey says that you need to get a 15-year mortgage because you don't have the discipline to get a 30-year mortgage and pay it as if it were a 15? He says you can't do that. Nobody can do that. You don't have the discipline to do that. But then he says that you somehow will have the discipline to buy term and invest the difference. Why does he tell you that you don't have the discipline to do one thing that is virtually the exact same thing as the other? Is it possible that he makes the money from term insurance?
Or other there's so much there. And again, you have to ask yourself that question. And that's part of my goals is to help, again, our clients ask that question. Now I can't say I'm a financial advisor because I'm not on the assets under management side, but I think that, man, for me, I'm always thinking about my clients and I'm always asking those questions, and we do a lot of the same stuff. And so it's such a weird world we live in where we can't say what we do, but I don't know.
But I think one of your strong suits is that you and Amanda especially, you don't talk down to people. And sometimes people call me condescending. Sometimes
Yeah.
I am guilty of talking down to people, but you don't, and Amanda doesn't for sure. Like Amanda, I don't know, like there's some superpower where she doesn't
I know
ever.
she hasn't,
Yeah, I know.
unless you're
But
married to her. Unless you're married.
well,
Yeah.
um, you don't, right? And I found that that's a good rule for conducting business, and I struggle with it a lot. But I mean, people aren't stupid. You just have to present them with the right information, and unfortunately, most people don't have the right information. But if you give them the actual evidence, you give them the actual numbers, you show them it based on their situation, they're not stupid. They'll draw their own conclusions. They will see the light essentially, and they will make the right decision. It's just that they can't make the right decision until they've been presented with the right data. It's unfortunate that there are people out there in the financial world who do talk down to people and do make snap judgments and are condescending. But I think that's a superpower of grandma's wealth wisdom, is
That's
not
good.
talking down.
We try. I mean, we try and just really listen and be again, her more than me, but really asking good questions and saying, okay, what do we want to do? And there's pros and cons. If anybody tells you putting your money in straight an infinite banking designed policy is all you should do everything in it. No, I don't think so. There's some downsides to it. You don't have all your money, all you have to. It takes a week before you can get your cash value, right? You can't just go down to the bank and do a credit card. Here's the question I was thinking about. People always ask me, well, I thought this was for rich people. Would you say that this system, the infinite banking system, is it just for the rich, or what do you think there?
Well, I think that's a game of semantics. I would say it is only for wealthy people in the sense that the way you think. It's for sure only for wealthy people. If you can have $0 in the bank and have a wealthy mindset.
Mm.
It's still for you if you get your stuff together and you have a little bit more money and you set up your life correctly and you have savings goals and whatnot. You could have all the money in the world, but have a poor mindset and you won't use it properly and you won't understand that it's meant to replace the banking function. It's not an investment. So that kills me when people are like, you shouldn't have whole life as an investment. I'm like, well, good, because it's not an investment. But it is not. I mean, I have it. I'm not rich. At least I don't think I am. And I just use it to replace the banking function. That's really it.
Yep.
If I could get that message across to people that it's not an investment, it's not some magic potion, it's just a replacement of the banking function. You borrow, you finance everything you buy, you save. It is just, you do all that through a traditional bank. What you're doing is just replacing the banking function. And so if you do business with a bank, or if you buy stuff and you finance stuff, it's probably for you. Obviously, you can't make a broad brush recommendation, but
well, and again, I think again, people ask me that. Well, I thought it's only for rich, and I'm like, hey, if it's somebody who saves, you should save money, a portion of it, and then you should invest. And I think that this is, again, our world is all about more of investing and spending than saving and production internally or health wise. And so I think that's, again, going back to our initial question, the difference between wealth and rich. And I'm wealthy, like right now. But yet I still want to grow in other areas. So, well, thanks for joining us for this Thanksgiving video. It's a long one, but it was fun. And if you guys have found this powerful. Of course, hit that like button, subscribe, share it with friends, whatever. And we want to change the world. We want to get out there and make a difference in the world. That's our goal with Grandma's Wealth Wisdom. And that's why I had James here, because James makes a difference in so many lives as well. So thanks for joining us. And we are excited to see you in December.